And welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you are here today. Welcome to Lipedema Wellness Conversations with Gail, that's me, and friends. And our friend today is our very own Leslyn Keith. I see from my counter that we have 6 people with us so far. As you come in, please make sure that you put either your name or where you're located. Say hi to Leslyn, say hi to me, and um, we want to wish you all a very happy new year. It's the 3rd already of January. This year is just booking right along. Um, Today I'm sorry we got started a little late, only like 2 minutes or so. We have, us, we always, if they leave Leslyn and me alone for too long, we have technical difficulties. I mean, it almost goes without saying. So far we have Jude Eastman, she's here, and Loretta Smith's from Michigan. Debbie's here from Michigan, and our very own Mary Kay is here. And so anyway, it's so good to see everyone here today. For those of you who are new to our broadcasts, I would like to introduce Leslyn Keith. Dr. Leslyn Keith is a CLT, certified lymphatic therapist. I can't even, I'm going to have to let her introduce herself because there's so much to Leslyn. She teaches for Gunter Close,
Close training.
Close.
Matter of fact, I'm going to go teach a class in Arizona next week, and that is I train medical providers, therapists, doctors, nurses, stuff like that, to treat lymphedema and lipedema. And so I'm going off to go teach a class to do that next week. Yeah. And I've been doing that about 10 years, but I've been actually a certified lymphedema and lymphatic therapist for over 20 years and been treating lymphatic disorders for quite some time. But I really got into lipedema when I hooked up with Catherine, and we started playing around with, well, does a ketogenic diet work, and what's a holistic approach, and how can we help women? And so that's how I got involved with Catherine and Gail and lots of other great people in Lipedema Simplified.
Yeah, and thank you, because I always forget you have like this whole big list of accomplishments, and my major accomplishment was getting to know you. So, and one of the wonderful things about getting to know you is we do every now and then tell each other where we're going to be in the world, and on occasion. And Leslyn was supposed to come on next Tuesday. Next Tuesday?
I think so, or I was supposed to actually do something. I don't know. It conflicted. We had conflicts.
Yeah. And she said, "Oh, you're planning on coming on the 17th."
Yes, yes.
And which was in 2 Tuesdays, and you said, "I'm going to be in Phoenix," and I'm like, "What? I'm going to be in Phoenix." So I'm like, "I'm leaving for Phoenix on the 11th," and you're like, "I'm leaving for Phoenix on the 11th." So maybe, just maybe, we'll get to actually meet in person. We don't know. You never know. And if we do,
happen.
That could happen. And if we do meet in person, well, we're not going to take any pictures. We're not going to do anything like that because we're going to keep it on the down low if it does happen. So I'm going to go back into the guests that we have today so far. We have Springfield, Ohio is here. Cheryl is here from Wisconsin. Marcia's from Kentucky. Lori Creighton's from Alabama. Someone says, hi, Gail and Leslyn. Livia's here from Rio de Janeiro. And Marilee's here from Chehalis, Washington. And then Marcia Cathcart's here from Texas. So, we have people from all over the United States. And not only that, we have people from Rio de Janeiro. So that's pretty spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
When we look forward to our year, Leslyn, one of the main questions that we always get from people is about things like compression, MLD, because those are things we can do right now at home, right? I do know that I do know that I get a lot of questions. People say, do we have doctors that treat lipedema? And I always think I have to do a lot of my own treatment,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, I have to do most of my treatment myself. I don't get a doctor that's going to treat me unless I go in for surgery. I pretty much don't have a doctor that's going to be treating me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really hard thing to tell people. Well, you might
Yes.
have to do most of this
So,
yourself.
and when it comes to, actually treating lipedema, if it's not surgery, if it's something, it's going to be non-invasive, like manual lymph drainage or something like that, it's usually not done by a doctor, but your doctor is really integral in coordinating your treatment and helping you find those resources and who you should go see, who is the person who's going to do the hands-on treatment with you and train you to be able to do your own self-care, because
Right,
you're only in treatment for a finite period of time. And so that person that your doctor hopefully helps you, leads you to, is going to train you on how to do self manual lymph drainage, how to get the right compression garments for you and make sure they fit you properly and you know how to position them properly. So they're going to train you in all this stuff, because this is a lifelong condition and you need to know how to take care of it in a way that's going to work into your own lifestyle for the rest of your life. And so that your doctor is really more of your coordinator, your care coordinator. And,
right,
and there are a few doctors out there that are, really up on lymphatic and fat disorders. For instance, I'm thinking of Dr. Emily Eicher in Santa Monica, California, or Dr. Karen Herbst I think she's in Tucson, Arizona. So, and they really do specialize in lymphedema and lipedema. But even in that case, they're not usually the person who's doing the treatment with you. You might have flown to see them to get diagnosed, and then they make some recommendations, but they're not so much the person who's actually physically, working on you.
right, right. And it can be a really difficult project
Mm-hmm.
to find one, a doctor who can diagnose you,
Mm-hmm.
and two, therapists that can help teach you how to take care of yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that we do with Lipedema Simplified. We don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily help you find a doctor, even though we do have a registry. And I'm going to say it's a not all inclusive registry, because we are only hearing from people as they
Right.
find therapists and
Right.
doctors. Um, but or I guess it's a directory, not a registry. It's a directory, I guess.
Yes.
And but not only that is we want to be able to help you learn as much as you can and find solutions that
Mm-hmm.
best fit your life. And that's one of the reasons that we have the tribe, is because it's a membership group, and we're always interacting with each other and finding out what this person is doing or that person. For example, when I started wearing compression on my arms, next thing you know, a lot of people were giving it a try.
Yes.
And that's how we help. That's how we help our community.
Yeah, I'm also thinking of, the coaching program. And we
Right.
have two certified lymphatic therapists that are part of that coaching team. And so you would consult with them. And I think you did consult with one of them,
Yeah.
Gail, to help you figure out what should I have in my self-care program? What should I be doing? What can I do at home? What should I be seeking out from a professional to help me with?
Right.
And they, again, that coach is not going to physically be doing stuff on you, but she's going to help guide you to those resources.
Right. And the great thing about the coaches, the the CLTs that we have, is they have a wide variety of treatments they do themselves on other on their patients, on their clients.
Mm-hmm.
But so they know that there's a lot of different wraps, there's a lot of different pumps, different compression, different things you might want to do for your lymphatic drainage. But then we also have nutritionists in our coaching staff,
Mm-hmm.
and they can help you find foods that are giving you some inflammation, and they can help you maybe find a way of eating that's going to make your body the happiest and the healthiest. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that we do. But Leslyn, what do you do personally for Lipedema Simplified and Lipedema Project?
um, I, my role is specifically with the Lipedema Project because I'm president of the board of directors and I'm also director of research. But I support Lipedema Simplified in a lot of ways, helping with the events and the symposiums that we put on. And I've written a couple of ebooks. And one that I wanted to specifically talk about today was on manual lymph drainage, or also it's done as the acronym of MLD, that you might have heard about. And I wanted to talk about that with people so that they know, one, why it's useful for lipedema and the treatment of lipedema, even if you don't have lymphedema as well. And also, I wanted people to know, I wanted them to have access to this ebook so it could be information for their therapist. Because what I'm learning now is that not every certified lymphatic therapist understands how we can use MLD and other treatments for lipedema. They're not always well versed in lipedema, more towards lymphedema. And so that's what I wanted to share with people today, and know that this is another option for their treatment.
Yeah, I put the link to the ebook in the comments, and I'll do it again. We do have these ebooks that are written by almost anybody on our staff can write an ebook, or sometimes we'll be discussing something and Catherine or Leslie will go, "Oh, we need to put that together in an ebook." For example, one of our nutritionists really helped us to understand that we do not have to take our blood pressure on our upper arm. That
Mm-hmm.
you can use a smaller cuff and take it on your forearm. And so she ended up writing up a pamphlet, and that has references and everything. You can print it out and take it to your doctor and say, "Here, look, maybe you can take my blood pressure instead of on my upper arm where it's extremely painful, on my forearm." And so one of the things that we do is we listen to our community, and when our community has lots of questions, then we put together something for you
Yeah.
to do. It could be a course, it could be a symposium or an event, it could be a fireside chat, it could be an ebook. You never know. So
Mm-hmm.
make sure that if you haven't gone to our website yet, and and like gotten on our mailing list, or anything like that, make sure that you do, because we do listen, and we do send out those links to you often.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some comments here. Debbie always takes it on her lower arm. Um, Mutually Yours Boutique and Consignment says, "Thank you for the free ebook." You're welcome.
That's good.
Yeah, so it says, "Thank you for talking about this, because I don't know I don't know what the abbreviations and acronyms stand for."
Yeah, and that's very often that everybody's talking about MLD, and you know that there's going to be people there who have no idea what that stands
Right.
for.
So
So it
MLB.
should.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, you froze up a little bit, Leslyn.
Okay, am I back?
You are back.
So and so I wanted to say about manual lymph drainage, or MLD, is that it was originally designed for people who had, well, it was originally built to treat the common cold. So
Oh,
the Dr. Vodder developed it as he was medically trained in the turn of the last century, and wanted to treat these vacationers on the French Riviera who had chronic sinusitis and stuff like that. He wanted to stimulate their lymphatic system, which is a big part of your immune system, to help with treating the common cold. And it worked. And then maybe 40, 50 years later, it was modified for various conditions, one of which is lymphedema. And so this was a very obvious swelling that that people would be treating. And so later we also started using it for lipedema. But the issue that's come up, I would say, in the last 5-10 years is that there is some question about whether or not there actually is edema or swelling in lipedema. And what that group is saying is that, well, we don't need to use manual lymph drainage for lipedema because there's no edema or swelling with lipedema. And so what I try to share in this ebook that I wrote was that when there is edema, we are now seeing very good imaging that is showing that there is edema of varying degrees with women with lipedema, but it does show up even in the early stages. And the second thing is that manual lymph drainage is good for more than just reducing swelling. It is good for many other symptoms associated with lipedema, such as pain, such as fibrosis in the tissues. It's a very useful treatment to have. And I want women with lipedema to know that this is something that should be used, can be used for lipedema, and hopefully help them find a provider in their area. And so they can have that treatment. I know you have experience with it, Gail. You've had MLD treatments.
I have, and I had no idea how to find a manual lymph drainage therapist, right? And so what I found was, I shouldn't say I found. I have a friend who does, who's a massage therapist,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, "Do you know how to do MLD?" And she said, "Yes." I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
You've heard of it.
I was startled, right? And so because it's not covered under my insurance, and I have to pay for it out of pocket, I just go see her, and I get it's oh my gosh, here in Boise, and I want to say dirt cheap, because when she told me that I buy a package of 4 90-minute sessions for $220, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's $55 for a 90-minute massage.
That's
Okay,
really, really good. Yes.
dirt cheap, right?
Yes.
And now, and so she doesn't do any measurements for me or anything. She just gives me my massage. But
Yes.
one of the things I discovered was when I started wearing my sleeve compression, and I started doing my own dry brushing and bulb massaging on my sleeves every day on my arms. She doesn't spend as much time there.
Oh, interesting.
But
So she because it's so much softer, because the volume is reduced, and she's seeing that I don't need to do as much work here. Let's go to some other areas that need the work.
Right. So my coach told me that maybe one of the things she could start working on would be my trunk, and stuff. So that's the nice thing about having a coach, is even though my coach taught me how to do the dry brushing and the bulb massaging on my, excuse me, on my upper body, my arms, and everything up there. That's where she started. She said, "Okay, now you might just ask your massage therapist to focus on another location on your body, and give her that little bit of push." And it was really nice, because when I asked her, why aren't you working on my arms as much? And she says, because you're taking really good care of it. And so
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and focus, because on your thighs and and I was needing extra leaven on my thighs.
Mm-hmm.
And then she started working on my trunk again. So yeah, it's pretty interesting when you become responsible for all of these things yourself, and you start studying about it.
Yeah, and that's another good thing to have a coach. And incidentally, we do have one of our coaches is also a doctor. And so, having someone like that to be on your team, because sometimes when you're doing it by yourself, and you can get easily overwhelmed and confused. And so having someone like a coach that can help you direct your energies in the place that's going to be most beneficial for you, and help share that load for figuring things out, because you shouldn't have to do this by yourself.
No, no. And the coaches that we have are fabulous. And Debbie says, I just sent my ebook to my email. Yeah. And really, any of our ebooks, feel free to share them with your doctors, or your therapist. Share them with your friends and family. Make sure that you educate them too on what you're going through. And amazingly, many of our friends and family, they might be dealing with some of this stuff and just haven't, either have been in denial or just haven't realized that they might deal with the same thing that you're dealing with.
Yeah, I'm thinking about our ebook that talks about the diagnosis of lipedema and shows, the features, the symptoms at all the various stages of stage 1 through 4. And you could send this ebook to a family member saying that I just want you to understand this is a diagnosis that I have. This is what's going on with me. But if you suspect that that might be something that that family member has themselves, then this could be a way to share that information with them without you, throwing out a diagnosis. You're just sharing information about yourself. I want you to be aware of what I'm going through. And at the same time, you're educating them, about you, but maybe about them too.
Right. Or their daughter, their wife, their one of their friends. You can, when you share the word with people that you care about, they, you have to trust. So if you trust them enough to share with them, then they'll realize, oh, this is something that, I have a friend that might have this very same situation going on, and she's struggling, or, so it's really important for us to share the word, to share our information that we have on all of this. So, Leslyn, we've gone for 23 minutes, which isn't very long, actually, for the two of us. We really crank it up. Let me see if there's any questions in here. So there's a Facebook user out there who wants more information on hormone replacement therapy with lipedema. What should it be avoided? I know that lipedema can worsen with hormone fluctuations. I'm at a point of needing to decide whether to proceed with HRT or not to help with prolapse issues.
Yeah.
So
And it's a really tough question, because we're seeing it, depending on the, your other conditions and other things that are going on with you. In some cases, having estrogen, replacing estrogen can be inflammatory, and lipedema is an inflammatory condition. But I saw in one paper they were talking about that they were using hormone replacement and it was beneficial. It helped with their lipedema symptoms. So estrogen can be anti-inflammatory or pro-inflammatory. So it's hard to say with your individual situation. Definitely, it seems like this is when we have the onset or exacerbation of lipedema symptoms, is during that time where we have hormones change. But keep in mind that you have different changes at these different time periods. So in puberty, very common time for lipedema to start, estrogen is up. Menopause, also a time for lipedema to start, it's estrogen is down. So who's to say that, if your lipedema really start or really got worse at menopause, who's to say that having some hormone replacement would be bad for you, even if you initially had your first onset with puberty or with pregnancy, which we know the hormones really change a lot during pregnancy. So unfortunately, there's been a lot of discussion. People have a hypothesis, but we really don't have the answers yet for hormones and lipedema. And I would say just try it, except I've had some, people who've told me that they've tried it and it really got bad and they took them a long time to get over that experiment. So I just really, I don't know what to recommend at this time, unless you can, this would probably be something very unusual, to go to someone who's an endocrinologist and also an expert on lipedema. That is, the kind of expert that you need is someone that would know what kinds of preliminary tests, what blood panels and things like that to do with you before even going on to an experiment, knowing that you have lipedema, knowing that you have whatever other conditions that you have, other medications that might interact. This is an unusual specialist that we need to have help with this.
Yeah. And I often think this is a woman's issue, right? I mean, it appears to be to run in women. It seems to be a women's issue, and yet you would think that people who study women's health, gynecologists, people who really are focusing on thyroid and all those, you'd think that they would know more about lipedema because it's a woman's issue.
Right.
And yet it doesn't seem to be the case. And so that's what 1789K is her handle. How do you get your doctor to listen? No tests, no looking, no anything being done. I'm just overweight is what she's told.
Yeah.
And
so, some doctors are open to learning stuff. And so, for instance, there is a great paper that came out, I think, in 2021. It's the lipedema standard of care. And so sometimes your doctor will believe you if this is, published in a reputable medical journal, and you print that out and, take it to your next appointment and say, this is what I believe, this is what I have. Could you learn about this? And I'd be happy to send it to you. You could tell that your doctor, I can send it to you as an attachment if you'd rather have it on your computer. But I think it's for that first visit to physically bring in something, our brochure, our little ebook about lipedema and the stages of lipedema, giving that to your provider, trying to use something to, increase their awareness that this is a bona fide condition. And I need you to help me. So you have to know more about this condition.
Right. And I had to do that to get a diagnosis. I had to take in lipedema, the disease they call fat. I had to bring in the book, and I bought a couple of them, and I took one to a doctor, her clinic, and it was basically, she didn't blow me off, but she was like, yeah, okay, I think you have it. So she put it in my chart. But that was about it. She couldn't, she was like, yeah, there's not really anything you can do. And then I took it to my physical therapist, one of them, who we have known as Angeline, the amazing Angeline. She helps with like women's health issues. She does pelvic floor and things like that. And she was very interested. And then I went and found another doctor who would finally, when I took her the book, she got really excited that this was something that some of our other patients had too. She knew it, and she didn't really have a name or a book or anything. And so that's the one I've stayed with since then. because she has been very supportive of me, but it's not easy.
Yes. Yeah.
So Teddy here says, please email me lipedema standard of care full article. I'm going to say, Teddy, will you if you would like that lesson, should they write to you?
Yes. And so you see my email right there, Leslyn at lipedemaproject.org. And if you email me, I'm sorry, Ted, I'm not going to be able to write your email down while I'm talking here. And then once we sign off, I won't have a record of that you posted it there. But if you would email me, I can send you as a PDF, I can send you that whole document. So
Yeah. So
feel free to contact me.
I put Leslyn's email not only here on the bottom of our screen, but I also put it in the comments so that you can get a hold of that as well, to write directly to her. Just click on that link, and then if you have any other questions, you can always write to me, and my email is a little different than hers, of course, but because
And I would just suggest that I think that standard of care document is particularly good if your doctor is open to it. It doesn't just say this is what the diagnosis is. It gives your doctor some guidance on what tests they should be running. They should be doing what blood work should they do? What should they be looking for? Do you have a thyroid condition? Because it seems that over 30% of the women with lipedema also have low thyroid. A lot of women with lipedema also have venous issues. And so it recommends to pursue that. It talks about, various supplements that might be helpful for various symptoms of lipedema. So it can also, if your doctor is interested, it can help them with your care. Even though they're not a lipedema doctor, this document can help them and provide you good care.
yes, and I'm going to put the MLD ebook in again. Make sure you're checking all these things in the comments. But yes, your doctor, if you can get your doctor educated, if you have to educate your own doctor, do.
Yes.
Don't back down, or find a new doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Find,
And that's hard. That's hard these days because sometimes your area doesn't have a whole lot of doctors, and you have to, with whatever your insurance is, you're limited even further. So I know in my area, when I was living in a rural area, a lot of doctors were leaving because the area didn't support their practice, and the cost of living was too high and the reimbursement was too low, and so they left. And so it's like you couldn't leave your doctor because then you didn't have a doctor.
Right,
So
right.
it's tough. But if you are in an area where you can get a new doctor because your doctor is not open to learning about lipedema, then that is the best option to try to go to somebody else.
Right. And we have Jennifer. She's like, really? Like there's no treatments? Well, no, it's all self-care right now. It seems like majority of what we deal with is self-care. So how do we find what, treatments or relief? So what do you think, Leslyn, is the number one modality that is used for relief? What do you find?
I would say compression.
Compression.
I would say compression, but compression is most effective when used in conjunction with other things. For instance, as you were doing, Gail, with dry brushing, or if you're getting MLD from a trained therapist, manual lymph drainage, if you have a vibration device. Because for some people, if they're having absolutely no treatment, doing nothing else in their self-care, and they try to put compression stockings on or compression sleeves on, it's painful. But when you combine that compression with other modalities, then it's probably one of the most successful things to address it that you can do at home. But it's another good reason to have that trained lymphatic therapist, because they're going to help you get the right compression.
Right. And if you need a coach, if you want to coach, and I don't have the whole list of coaches here, if you want to coach for nutrition support, or you want to coach for compression, MLD support, please email me or Leslyn. But I'm the director of coaching with Lipedema Simplified, and I can get you in contact with a coach. And I find that I've modified my diet, went to a very low inflammatory response diet about 5 years ago, and it slowly worked its way into a way of life for me. And it's a very simple way of eating. It's it became ketogenic. It didn't start that way, but it slowly morphed into, I discovered sugars, grains, fruits, starchy veg, all made me unhappy, made my body unhappy.
Yeah.
So I became closer and closer to carnivore. And so I'm what I guess they call it ketovore, or carno keto. I don't know what they call it. But I modified it to fit me. And I've discovered that it's when I go away from that for a little while, because I feel I have sleepless nights because of the pain. I have my ankles swell. I don't care what they say about edema not being part of lipedema. Those of us with lipedema, we're going, what are you talking about? We know our legs swell.
Yes, yes. And
we know
I
our ankles disappear.
that's where I started with, was those anecdotal reports. And what my patients were telling me, a 10-pound weight swing within 24 hours, that's not fat. That is fluid that changes that drastically. And so I was going by just those anecdotal reports, because I think we need to believe people when they tell you that this is their experience. And so what this one group that's saying that there's no edema, they used one way of evaluating edema was through an ultrasound, which that's a lot of clinics have ultrasounds. And when it's lymphedema, you can very definitely see the fluid in the tissue with ultrasound. I think the fluid is trapped in the tissue in a different way with lipedema, and so it was not visible. And so they said, therefore, there's no edema in lipedema. But in the last, I would say, just the last 2 years, there's been some fabulous papers written about studies that they're using different imaging techniques. They can see how the lymphatic system is impaired, it's dysfunctional, and there's actually an increased fluid load that is detectable with these little bit more expensive imaging techniques that are not available at every clinic. So I think that those papers show us that there is edema. And so if you have a patient who's coming to you and saying, my ankles are swelling, but they seem to go down overnight, or it just feels so tight and so heavy on my lower legs or on my thighs, you have to believe them that it's probably edema.
Right. And even like for me, I'll say, I used to tell my husband, I'm dragging these tree stumps around, right? I mean, they're just like
It's so heavy.
They're so heavy. And I was always teased. I mean, my family tells me I only have, 2 speeds, slow and stop, pretty much. But I mean, I was always just trying so hard to keep up with the rest of the family. And I couldn't figure out why. I was moving as fast as I could, and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't keep up. And once I found out I had lipedema, and I was so aware that the legs It's because my legs were heavy compared to theirs. I don't know what their body feels like, right?
Right.
I just know what
Right.
mine feels like.
This was your normal.
And it was my normal. However, my legs, compression actually makes my legs feel lighter.
Yes. Yes.
And I'll tell you, the compression, I don't know. I'll sing the praises of sleeves forever
Mhm.
because my arms used to just feel so heavy all the
Yes.
time. I could barely lift them over my head, right? And they don't feel that way anymore. And
Yes.
and I rarely go without my sleeves anymore.
Yep.
So and like a Facebook user says here, stairs, step to step to step. I was crawling up the stairs.
One step at a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I first met you, Gail, you were saying mobility issues. No, I don't have any mobility issues. I get up the stairs fine. Well, not everybody crawls up the stairs. So you functionally were getting up the stairs. So you felt like you didn't have an impairment, but you
Right.
were having to do it in that way.
Yeah.
That was tough.
I remember having
Now, how is it going upstairs?
I sometimes I have to hold on. I have to like brace myself on the wall, right? But I can carry things up the stairs now. It takes me
Mhm.
a while. Sometimes I have to go step, 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 step. So it depends on how heavy the load is or if I'm at or what set of stairs they are.
Yeah.
But I can actually go, I'm not crawling up the stairs like grabbing the stair in front of me and getting my legs up. I'm not doing that
Yes.
anymore.
Yes.
And I remember having that conversation with you going, um, I don't I we took a little test or something. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I do have mobility issues." I
Yeah.
didn't think about
Yes.
mobility issues being I get on the floor and I can't get back up unless I somehow get over to a couch and then like crawl roll up onto the couch,
Yeah.
right?
So, well, and this was normal to you. This is just how you lived life, and you didn't realize that it could be different. It was just what was normal for you.
Right, right.
How many
Yeah,
women have told us that, well, doesn't it hurt everybody to have a blood pressure test?
right. Yeah,
I
I didn't
mean, yeah, it's shocking to them to realize that no, that is not how it is for everybody.
right. And it's also, I used to like, my kids used to climb on me, and I'd
Mhm.
say like, I'd sit on the floor with the kids and I was always doing that,
Yeah.
because they would, like, crawl over my legs, and I'm like, Don't climb on me, please. Here, sit between." So I'd spread my legs out and play with the kids between my legs because I couldn't bear to have them sitting on my legs,
Mhm.
you
But
know?
you were also super flexible, so you could do that, right?
No, I would
You were.
no,
I
I
thought
would
you were talking about putting your legs out.
well, I could get them out to where I could play with the kids, like, I would sit them on the floor
Mhm.
in front of me that way,
Mhm.
but I can't I can't bend my legs this
Oh, you
way.
can't do like an Indian style.
No, 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 I can't do crisscross applesauce or whatever,
Uh-huh.
you
And
know?
because this is also a common thing with women with lipedema is they can be very, very flexible.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not every person with lipedema. But in my practice, that was quite often the case. And those were the women that could bend down to reach their feet in order to get stockings on. Most of my patients cannot reach their feet, but typically my patients with lipedema could. And so there are some beneficial features.
Yeah. Well, I could always I mean, people would say, like, "Bend over and touch your toes," and I would just put my hands flat on the floor.
Yes. Yeah.
And they just look at me like, "Are you kidding?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, No, I can put my hands flat on the floor."
Well, let
Be
me ask you another one, Gail. Can you easily do a sit up?
like a
You're
sit-up.
laying, yeah, laying on the floor, your knees are bent, and then just sit up without using your hands to push off, just your trunk, your stomach makes you sit up.
Yes. I can do it.
I have found that women with lipedema typically have pretty strong abdominal muscles, and they can sit up, where a lot of my other patients, there is no way that they're sitting up without using their arms to help.
Oh. Oh.
Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting. That is interesting. I would have never thought about that.
Uh-huh.
But I know that my mom used to tell me, well, the reason you don't have back problems is because you have such strong abs.
And I think that is naturally the case with you, as probably part of your lipedema. It is, like I'm saying, just a common feature that I've seen with my patients. I've not seen a lot about that in the literature, but everybody who's watching right now, can you sit up without using your arms? I'm curious if this is a true feature of lipedema.
And if you have a hernia, don't stop.
But don't do it if you have a hernia, right?
Well, Julia's here like, I have an umbilical hernia, so I'm not able to sit up.
Yeah. And also, if you cannot get off the floor, if you get down on the floor and you can't get up, then don't do this too. So I don't want anybody trapped on the floor.
Do it on the table.
That's right.
On the table.
On the bed.
Yeah. So, and I've always had strong legs. And I could go and go and go, but I was always just so slow because it was a lot of work.
You were lugging a lot of weight. And interestingly, there was one study about looking at leg strength and lipedema. And at least in that study sample, the women with lipedema were weaker in their thigh strength. And had reduced muscle mass compared to healthy controls. So, I think there is a lot of variability out there. And so when we say, here are the characteristics and here are the symptoms, you're not going to match them all, perfectly. There's a lot of variability.
Right. So I want to let everybody know, I'm going to put that ebook in the chat again, and I'm going to let you also know, please email Leslyn or me for if you want a copy of the blood pressure, pain-free blood pressure link. So we can get a link to you for that, or you can go to Lipedema Simplified, and you can take the quiz there, and then contact us. Make sure that you're reaching out to us, because we're here to help you. We're here to make sure that you get the information that you need. I see a lot of names in here. I've been seeing them on our CSIG courses and in some of our projects in the tribe, but I also see some new ones. And that's why we're here. We're here to educate. We're here to listen to you. We want to hear your story. We want to support you. The community is here to share with you all of their knowledge and to listen to the knowledge you have to share with them. And that's what we do here at Lipedema Simplified. We're going to start wrapping up. And so, Leslyn, if there was one message that you would like echoed around the world today, what would it be?
Share and listen. So be willing to share what you know and share your own experience and listen to others. And I think that's how we will, that's how we form a community, and that's how we help each other.
Yeah, thank you. And my last words is, I want you to know that there's hope. You're not alone. We're here for you. Thank you guys all so much for being here tonight. We'll talk to you soon.